Foster.
All right. Hey, what's up, guys? Happy, joyous, and free alcoholic. My name is Foster. I have a sobriety date. It's July 25th of 2016. I have a sponsor. His name is Russell. He knows everything that's going on with me. His sponsor's name is Austin. He lives in New York and sometimes Florida, depending on the weather. I have a home group. It's Friday night West Side Beginners meeting. We are meeting on Zoom every Friday at 7 p.m. Um, I have the honor and privilege and pleasure of sponsoring some pretty awesome guys in this program and taking them through the steps like it was done for me. And I say yes to service. And Kate, it is so good to see you. Thank you so much for asking me to do this. It is past my bedtime. I'm just kidding. But no, I'll tell you what. Like, I didn't want this life that I have today. Originally, like I wrote myself off at 25 years old. I thought that that would be the longest I would be able to live. I made that decision when I was 23 years old because the life I was living at 23 told me that I wouldn't be around for 25. And once I hit 25, I'll tell you what, like that is when I hit all kinds of physical bottoms, spiritual bottoms, mental bottoms. I just hit like rock bottom in my life as a result of like, my will. I drank myself into suicidal ideation. I drank myself to ruin a lot of important relationships. I drank myself into rehab, and that's where I met you guys for the very first time in 2015. Um, I had a lot of resentment. I had a lot of hatred in my heart. I had a lot of hopelessness. Where there once was hope, I used to be this guy who had a zest for life, who looked forward to the next day, who I was just so enthusiastic and so optimistic about everything. I had friends all over the place. And, you know, in 2015, it all came to a head for me. I just didn't see the point of living anymore. I knew I had a problem, but I was too afraid to face it. And, but I'll tell you what, it was everyone else's fault that my life had turned out the way it did. It was everyone's fault but mine. I got introduced to you all in 2015 by way of rehab. I didn't think that AA was a real thing. I thought it was something that I only saw on TV shows and movies. And, I would read about it while I was on the toilet and looking at the National Enquirer, like such and such celebrity is now going to AA meetings. And it'd be a candid photo of somebody coming out of an AA meeting or some building. And I didn't think that this was real. When I was 12 years old, I lost my father to this disease. I didn't find that out till I was about 15 years old. And, you know, uh, yeah, as a teenager, I had a lot of hatred, a lot of resentment, a lot of anger surrounding my father's death, not just him passing and kind of like leaving us suddenly, but, and that was out of my control and obviously out of his too, because he was one of us. He just didn't get here, you know? But I had a lot of hatred and anger towards my mother, who started dating really quickly to cope with losing her husband. I hated the people that she dated. I hated the decisions she made for the better of my brother and sister and myself. She got us out of a neighborhood that soon went to shit, and a lot of the guys that I was hanging out with, they started doing things that I probably would have gotten caught up in and maybe not even be here right now. I had a lot of resentments toward the school, that I got transferred into. Like I was just wound so tight, so full of everything negative, and any chance that I got, I took the opportunity to let that out on whoever had it coming their way. Not so much physically, but I could tear people down with words. And a lot of those words were said to people who loved and cared about me a lot, and that progressed. After I took that first drink when I was 13 years old, that first drink didn't do anything for me, but it made me feel a part of. I didn't get drunk. It was a blue plastic cup on July 5th. A year and 3 days after my father had passed, we're loading up a U-Haul because my mom is making me move, or making us move, or made the decision, I should say, for us to move somewhere better, where she would have a opportunity to buy a house and not live in like, in like, this rented situation or what have you. So she wanted better for us, and I couldn't see it that way. So selfish and self-centered from the jump. You know, I was like, she's ruining my future. She's taking my friends away. Like, instead of she's doing something for the better of our family. I didn't see it that way. Guys saw that I was depressed loading that U-Haul up. So they came down the street, about four of them. And I'll never forget, Keith came down. He had this hard blue plastic cup, had this baby blue beverage inside with the semicircle ice cubes that come from the back of the freezer. And I took a swig of that, and then I just downed the whole cup. It was delicious. It was refreshing. Um, Made me feel a little nice inside, but you know, I asked him what it was. He was like, "That's hypnotic." And I tell you what, like I felt so cool because Keith was like 3 or 4 years older than me. He had the freshest clothes, you know what I'm saying? He had these huge, I'm pretty sure they were cubic zirconia looking back, but they looked like real diamond earrings. And he was just always fresh. He was cool. He could rap. He could play basketball. He was like everything I wanted to be, except now today I see Keith and I'm like, thank God that didn't happen. No knock to Keith though, you know, he's still a great dude. But you know, a lot of my friends stayed the same, but and I was going down that path as well. But I took that first drink and I felt like I was a part of that older crowd that I always wanted to be in, and that's what my drinking looked like. You know, at a you know in college, like I started finding people who drank like I did, who were doing things that I wanted to do but was too afraid to do back home. So I would link up with these people and I would do what they were doing, and before you knew it I was doing more than they were doing. And you know, it started out real fun. I had a lot of fun drinking. It was one of my favorite things. I looked forward to it. The college I went to, every night of the week they had an event that was circled around drinking. You know, Monday night you go to favorites. You pay $1 to get in. They give you a cup. You can drink all night for $1 on Mondays. It was awesome. Tuesday night, this place called the Rec Room. They did 2 times Tuesday, buy one get one free. You know, where I was going to school, it was real cheap, man. Baltimore, I like Baltimore's liquor prices. They was fire. You know what I'm saying? And Wednesday night, I always had more women friends than I did dude friends because I just liked, you know, to be in that kind of crowd. I feel like I can be a little bit more honest, a little bit more vulnerable. So on Wednesday nights at the Crease, it was ladies' night. I would go in with my friends. I paid my little $5, $10 cover, and they would just slide me their free drinks all night. You know, Thursday night, Thirsty Thursday. Y'all know what that is. Friday, fucked up Friday. Saturday, something had something going on, and then Sunday night, which was my favorite, Green Turtle. $10, all you can drink. It was just a little bit more expensive than Monday night, but the quality was so much better, and they had wings. What? But nonetheless, those morning after stories were great when I first started drinking with these people in college. And then, like, fast forward a year and a half, the stories are not so funny. They're not so cute. They actually are very embarrassing, quite humiliating, and rather worrisome because I was putting myself in a lot of very dangerous situations. I would end up in places in Baltimore. My friends once lost me in Baltimore, which triggered my mom to call every jail and hospital in the county looking for me. When all that really happened was I was asleep outside of my friend's car, or outside of I was outside of my friend's house with a girl in the car, and we had drank so much that we had passed out. Um, let's see. Yeah, so that's what my drinking looked like. It was fun, then it wasn't anymore. Fast forward, 2015, I get to rehab. It is everyone else's fault that I am in rehab. It is my mom's fault. It is my stepfather's fault, who was my dad's best friend. And how dare you marry my mother? I came to find out actually a few months ago that his wife actually got killed in a crack deal. You know, so his wife died as a result of addiction and alcoholism. My dad died as a result of alcoholism and drug addiction. Didn't know that that was the common bond they shared. You know, pretty messed up common bond if you ask me, but that's what they did. And they did the absolute best they could to provide for myself, my brother, and my sister. And I absolutely tore them down every opportunity I could. I went to rehab and I just played that tape over and over and over and over again. It was my mom's fault, stepfather's fault, job's fault, ex-girlfriend's fault, girl that was my girlfriend but didn't know she was my girlfriend's fault. It was everybody's fault but mine. And then I also got to treatment, and a bunch of the other patients told me that I wasn't that bad for what I was in there for. They were like, "Oh, you're only in here for alcohol, weed, and some kind of sleeping pills. We're all in here for heroin and all that stuff." And I was like, "Oh, really? If they say I'm not that bad, fine, I'll take it." You know, so a week into rehab, I'm sitting there like already feeling like better than, because like, hey, I'm just here to get my family off my back and to keep my job. I heard the message of Alcoholics Anonymous when I was in there. I heard it, but I was not listening. All I heard were war stories and how people's lives got better. But I didn't hear like what it took to get there. I didn't hear that they were getting sponsors. I didn't hear about service. I wasn't listening for the feelings. I wasn't listening for any kind of solution. I was just there because we had to. And if you left the room during the meeting, they took your phone privileges away. So I was like, I'll just stay here if they're going to take my phone privileges away. What's an hour? And the entire time in my first year, I mean, in my first month in that rehab, all I did was sat with those same patients who told me I wasn't that bad, glorifying the lifestyle that got us in there in the first place. Um, I got out 21 days later. Um, and on the way out, this guy Sterling, he asked me, are you open minded to what he said, are you open to following a spiritual path that's laid out in the 12 steps? And I got my suitcase and my book bag, and I'm like, yes. And then I go out the door, and my brother's in the car. I hop in the car with my brother, and I'm like, let's go to CVS. I got a prescription that I can fill. I go get that prescription. I go back to this apartment that I'm living in Southeast DC. My bedroom was a mattress on the floor, and I had two bed sheets that covered the openings of the room because the room had no doors on it. It was basically like what was supposed to be a dining room turned into my bedroom. Mattress on the floor and bed sheets were my doors. And at that time I was like, scheming for money. Like I would lie to my family and tell them like, hey, I need money for X, Y, and Z. Like I got out of treatment. Everyone was very happy, but nothing within me had changed. I was still the same person I was before I went in. The only difference was I just hadn't drank or put anything in my system for 21 days. But on that 22nd day when I got out, I went right to that CVS. I got that prescription. I went to a meeting, not an AA meeting, because I was in denial about being an alcoholic, because my father was an alcoholic and X, Y, and Z, and all these people that I really didn't think that I was as bad as were alcoholics. And yeah, I raised my hand, told him I was new, got some numbers. Cool guy gave me a ride home, told me to call him tomorrow. I was like, yeah, whatever. Got in that car, went home, and I found that prescription, and I was high within less than 8 hours of getting out of treatment. And that kind of cycle continued for 8 months. From November to July, I was reliving the hell that it took me years to build. It got progressively worse. The amount of self harm went up. I would be standing at the metro, loaded, just like thinking maybe today is the day I just jump. Because the drugs weren't working anymore, the alcohol wasn't working anymore. Any friends that I had stepped aside because they refused to see me kill myself. I was ashamed to show myself in front of my family members. I actually moved in with the family member who I was supposed to take care of. And on many occasions, I made her cry. That's my great grandmother, who is living with her drug addicted, alcoholic 26-year-old at the time, who she's terrified is going to die in her house. And that's the last thing she needed to be worrying about while I'm supposed to be her caretaker. But, that's what my drinking and using did. Um, and, I kept thinking that I had it. I didn't think I was that bad because I was still listening to those people who were what I thought were that bad. And for 8 months, I was just, slowly, slowly, slowly killing myself. There was absolutely no hope. I woke up and every day I resented God for letting me wake up, because I knew what my life was going to look like. I absolutely hated waking up because I knew I had to go through another day of being me. I could not stand myself. I could not stand the life that I had made for myself, because I know it's not the life I originally wanted for myself. But 8 months later, fast forward, I finally have a moment of grace after the final night of me terrorizing my family. You know, Graham saw me in the bathtub one night after, or one morning after I came home from drinking, thought I was dead, called my aunts. I wake up in my bed. Somehow I got there. They're sitting on the foot of my bed. They asked me, do I want to go back to rehab? And for 8 months, I have been dying to hear that. I've been dying to ask it, but my pride and ego wouldn't let me. And I said yes. I went right back up to Annapolis, went to that same rehab, same counselor, but I didn't tell the same story of, oh, woe is me. This is what happened. I got in there and I got honest about my part in things. And I'll tell you what, that was what changed everything for me. I got honest about my dual diagnosis with anxiety and depression, along with my alcoholism and addiction. And then, from there, they offered me some help. I got set up with a psychiatrist, meds. I started really building a relapse prevention program. I really started to hear the importance of a sponsor. I would go to outside meetings in rehab and I would actually plug into the network that was there. I would get numbers from people who had something that I wanted. And what that looked like was people who just had this way about them that seemed happy. They seemed cool with themselves. They liked AA. They liked being sober. That's what I wanted. Because you take my alcohol and drugs away at 26 years old, I think the world is over, But I got out, started doing the things. I got a sponsor within my first week out. We got cracking on those steps real fast. One, two, three, four. Before I knew it, 6 months in, I'm already writing that 8-step amends list. And before you know it, those amends are being made. Before you know it, there's some kind of spirituality in my life. I'm meditating, I'm praying. And then also what I realized is like I had a sponsor who always, always, always reminded me to give it back because it's not mine to keep. I have to give this thing away, and I'll tell you what, like the life I have today is incredible. I got a 4-year-old niece who calls me Uncle Frosty, and I think that is the dopest thing ever, just because that's like the dopest nickname an uncle could have. The job that I used to show up on drunk and high, I got promoted there last year. I was actually able to sit in on a meeting with like some big wig people last week, and you know, in 2015, 2016, these were the same people who were talking about maybe this is the day we let them go. And just to be sitting at the table with them and they want to hear what I have to say on things. Um, and just sponsorship has been key. I had to get a new sponsor back in November because my previous sponsor, that original sponsor, has moved away. And I tell you what, like I was on that quicker than anything. I was like, all right, within a week of hearing that news, we got to get another sponsor because I can't go unsponsored. I tried sponsoring myself and it almost killed me. I was taking advice from the same mind that was trying to kill me. And that didn't, and that got me right back to you all. Best case scenario, you know what I mean? And these men that I sponsor now, like it's just so cool to just hear myself listening and being able to find a solution without like having to make it up, just off experience. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, it's a beautiful thing, this life that I live today. I am absolutely fired up about AA. I have that zest for life has returned. The enthusiasm has returned, the optimism has returned. I wake up every day and I say I'm ready to participate in life, and that's just not something that was happening for me a few years ago. I'm very grateful for this life. And I'll tell you what, like during this whole pandemic thing, because yeah, you can't not talk about that. A few, like maybe a month or two ago, I had a moment where I was like, what is the point of even being sober anymore? I hit that wall because like with all the protests and then the pandemic, like I'm like, is this really that important? Yes, it is. Because I don't get to feel feelings at all without sobriety. I wouldn't care about any of the stuff that's going on in our society right now. And like that's another blessing in disguise. Like I see it as a curse some days, but I can feel feelings today. And like what got me through that was just recommitting each and every day to AA, till I got back to this point where I feel grateful to have my seat or my camera view in AA, you know what I mean? I had to recommit and I had to be willing to recommit. And I think that's what I want to talk about because it's like it's a lot of times where I'm just like, what is the point of all this? And then I got to remember like gratitude. Like, look at your life. I didn't do this on my own. You guys did this. God did this. This is not me. I just followed some directions and showed up because I was willing to show up. My program slip and recommit to it. So that's enough out of me because it is 10:01 and I want to hear everyone else. But Kate, thank you so much. I love you. And even if I don't know y'all, I love y'all too. So thank you for letting me share.